Just 4 years before The Little Mermaid, Disney Animation's most ambitious project ever nearly destroyed the entire studio. But like many other 80s bombs, it found its audience years later. Ishtar had a lot going for it, with Warren Beatty and Dustin Hoffman co-starring in what aimed to be the next big adventure movie. The film was about two talentless songwriters who traveled to Morocco for a booking only to find themselves caught up in a Cold War standoff. Unfortunately, when Ishtar hit theaters, critics lambasted it as one of the worst movies ever made. It also cost a ton. Initially, Ishtar was budgeted for $28 million, but the production ran into numerous problems and the final cost was a reported $51 million. When the dust settled, Ishtar made only $14.3 million at the box office. It didn't help that Beverly Hills Cop 2 opened the same weekend, all but ensuring its failure. Despite being a notorious bomb, time has aged Ishtar like a reasonably priced wine you'd serve at a casual dinner party. Critics have re-evaluated the film, praising it on its various re-releases, with Richard Brody of The New Yorker saying, "The movie is among the most original, audacious, and inventive movies and funniest comedies of modern times." The 1980s was an excellent decade for fantasy films, but not because they made a ton of cash. Many that have since been lauded as cult classics utterly failed upon release, like Krull, an ambitious mishmash of fantasy, science fiction, and mythology genres. Krull tells the tale of Prince Colwyn, who must recruit a squad of heroes to help on his quest to rescue Prince Lisa from a fortress of alien invaders.
These men follow no man but me, and I follow no man at all.
Would you follow a king?
Krull failed to woo audiences upon release, and it bombed pretty hard. The estimated production budget was around $47 million. That's a lot of money for a new intellectual property, costing the studio significantly and ensuring no sequel would see the light of day after it returned just $16.9 million at the box office. Today, Krull is a beloved cult classic, and while it has its detractors, it also boasts a huge fan base. The film features then cutting-edge visual effects and has a fantastic score by celebrated composer James Horner, so there's a lot for people to like, even though some criticize Krull for its slow pace. Legend is the Ridley Scott film most people missed when it hit US theaters in 1985. It stars a young Tom Cruise a year before he starred in Top Gun. Cruise plays Jack, a pure being who embarks on a quest to stop the Lord of Darkness from covering the world with eternal night. Legend had a lot of star power, but critics weren't kind to the story. The studio shelled out $25 million for the film, which only made $23.5 million at the box office. Despite the weak box office, though, Legend earned numerous technical accolades, including an Academy Award nomination for Best Makeup. It lost, though few could look the Lord of Darkness in the eyes and realize Tim Curry was under all that red paint. Legend languished in cinematic obscurity for years, but Universal saved it by releasing a director's cut DVD, restoring several cutscenes and the original Jerry Goldsmith score. Legend was already a cult classic before the 2002 and subsequent 2011 re-release, but its popularity grew as more people enjoyed the film for the first time. The first attempt at adapting Frank Herbert's Dune for the big screen took over a decade, resulting in a film that only somewhat resembles the book. Accuracy was sacrificed for time when a 3-hour movie was cut and reshot down to just over 2 hours. Dune follows the same narrative structure as the novel, but incorporates elements utterly absent from its source. 1984's Dune was an expensive film, costing somewhere between $40 to $42 million to produce, but it made only $30.9 million at the global box office. Still, while it failed in cinemas, Dune had a second life via televised broadcast and home video. The expanded 1988 TV version included 2 parts, totaling 186 minutes, but it wasn't necessarily an improvement. Director David Lynch was so disgusted with the cut that he removed his name, using the pseudonyms of Alan Smithy for the director and Judas Booth for its writer. Ultimately, Dune earned its fan base and cult classic status from the home video rental market. While it's not the most faithful adaptation of Herbert's work, it features beautifully imagined characters, places, and themes. The film's visual style alone makes it a work of art, and despite its flaws, it's beloved by many.
Try looking into that place where you dare not look. You'll find me there staring back at you.
You mustn't speak!
You may not know it, but a film starring Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, and Jim Carrey hit theaters in 1989 and completely bombed. Earth Girls Are Easy, built around a song by Julie Brown, is an 80s comedy about a valley girl who befriends 3 furry aliens after their spaceship crashes into her pool. Once shaven, the fuzzy aliens become attractive men. Earth Girls Are Easy was positively received by critics upon release, but hardly anyone bothered to see it. The film's estimated budget of $10 million made the $3.9 million it earned at the box office a tough pill to swallow. While most people missed out on seeing Earth Girls Are Easy in theaters, it blew up via the home rental market and televised broadcasts. Comedy Central also aired the film throughout the 90s and 2000s, ensuring more people watched it. It's now settled nicely into the realm of cult classics, beloved for its pure camp absurdity, with multiple musical numbers that show nobody took anything too seriously making it. In Enemy Mine, humanity has been at war with the Dracs, and it's a bitter fight. Starfighter pilot Willis Davidge hates the Dracs as much as anyone, but when he and an enemy pilot, Jariba, both crash on a hostile planet, they must learn to trust one another to survive. The story follows these two enemies as they become dependent on one another and ultimately friends. Enemy Mine is arguably one of the greatest science fiction films ever made that hardly anyone saw. The film hit theaters in 1985 after a number of production issues and cost overruns. Enemy Mine was budgeted for $17 million but ended up costing upwards of $48 million when it was finished. The film wasn't helped by middling critical response, and it also faced significant competition at the Christmas box office, including Rocky IV. Ultimately, it only made a paltry $12 million at the box office, making it a certified mega bomb despite its obvious quality.
Do you not remember what you said, Bachisma?
Yo, maybe you forgot what you said about Mickey Mouse.
Of all the zany movies produced in the 80s, 1984's The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension has to be the strangest. The title is a mouthful, and the film doesn't hold back in throwing numerous concepts at the audience. The hero is a neurosurgeon, physicist, rock star, and test pilot who accesses the eighth dimension while testing a jet car through solid matter. Buckaroo Banzai is everything modern cinema isn't. It's risky, weird, and a lot of fun without any attempt at being serious. What's left is a cult classic starring a ton of talent, including John Lithgow, Ellen Barkin, Jeff Goldblum, and more. But it was still a big flop. Buckaroo Banzai cost 20th Century Fox $17 million to make, and it only managed to rake in around $6.3 million. Despite this massive loss of cash, Buckaroo Banzai spawned a host of spin-offs in other media, including comics, novels, and even a video game. While the film is undoubtedly campy, it's a fun ride to the eighth dimension any sci-fi fan should see.
Evil! Pure and simple from the eighth dimension!
Ladyhawke is a fantasy tale centered around Matthew Broderick's thief, the Mouse, who busts out of a dungeon and soon finds himself involved in a dangerous plot to hunt down a legendary warrior and his one true lady love. The Mouse is out for himself initially, but eventually becomes a hero of his own story. The film came out shortly after War Games and just before Ferris Bueller's Day Off, so Broderick was something of a rising star at the time. Unfortunately, almost nobody bothered to watch his foray into the fantasy genre in theaters. The studio shelled out about $20 million for Ladyhawke and only saw a return of $18.4 million in ticket sales. The film passed into obscurity for a while and only managed to claw out with Broderick's increased fame. Despite failing to garner much attention from audiences upon release, Ladyhawke received 2 Academy Award nominations and won the Saturn Award for Best Fantasy Film. These days, it's remembered for its excellent characters, rich sound, and exceptionally well-written romance, typically lacking in fantasy films. Animation in the early 1980s often delivered outstanding films, many of which didn't earn much money at the box office. This was often due to an expanding market of adult-oriented animation in conflict with more traditional cartoon films for children. For instance, Ralph Bakshi's movies often struggled to woo audiences upon release, only to become cult classics discovered in the home rental market. A great example of this is 1981's American Pop. The film follows 4 generations of an immigrant family filled with musicians. Each generation tells the tale of their American journey as they navigate the perils of history's most significant events, including the Great War, World War II, the Civil Rights Movement, counterculture, and more. Like most of Bakshi's works, American Pop features a mix of animation styles and archival live-action footage. American Pop was a relatively expensive film, costing approximately $5 million to produce. Unfortunately, it only made $6 million at the box office, barely scraping even. American Pop has gained a wider audience as a cult classic and offers an exceptional and eclectic amalgamation of 20th century music. The soundtrack caused a lot of rights issues, though, so the film didn't come out on VHS until 1998. Explorers is one of those movies that, if you saw it as a kid, you absolutely loved it. It's a quintessential kids movie about a group of teens who discover a means of flying into space. They meet some aliens, have a taste of adventure, and become better friends by the end. Explorers suffered a fate common to many sleeper hits. The competition killed it. When it was released in July 1985, Back to the Future was in its second week in theaters, ensuring nobody dropped a few bucks to see the latest Joe Dante film. Explorers also fought for ticket sales against The Goonies, which was released the month prior but was still dominating the box office, and a re-release of E.T. As a result, Explorers had a poor showing at the box office, earning just shy of $10 million. The film features numerous special effects shots that ended up costing Paramount Pictures $24 million, making Explorers a genuine box office bomb. Many eventually discovered it on VHS, though, ensuring it achieved cult classic status. Highlander follows the unending life of Connor MacLeod, a 16th century warrior from the Scottish Highlands. A monster of a man called Kurgan kills him in his first battle in 1536, but instead of rotting, he wakes up as good as new. Connor is an immortal, a group of people who can only die via decapitation. The immortals are eventually drawn to a particular place where they must kill each other for the right to gain power beyond mortal understanding. It's an unusual premise, but it makes for an exceptional fantasy action-adventure flick that was also, unfortunately, a flop. Highlander cost $16 million to make, and it only earned $12.9 million at the box office when it debuted in 1986. Despite this, the film gained a significant following, and it became a multimedia franchise consisting of multiple terrible sequels, a popular television series, a possible reboot starring Henry Cavill, and one very famous catchphrase.
There can be only one.
Highlander is a fantastic film for many reasons, one of which is its spectacular soundtrack. Queen provided numerous tracks for the film, including Who Wants to Live Forever, A Kind of Magic, and Princes of the Universe, which opened the TV series title sequence. In Big Trouble in Little China, truck driver Jack Burton finds himself in San Francisco's Chinatown, where he's pulled into a magical plot to help save two women from an immortal demon named David Lopan. It's incredibly violent and over the top. There are monsters, martial arts, magic, and more, which is exactly what you want in a John Carpenter film. The film was expensive, requiring extensive visual effects, elaborate costumes, and tons of makeup. It cost around $25 million to produce, but Big Trouble in Little China only pulled in about $11.2 million at the box office. Most critics didn't tear it apart, and the film garnered some positive attention, but it fell victim to the plethora of excellent movies showing in theaters when it dropped in July 1986. Big Trouble in Little China hit theaters alongside The Karate Kid Part 2, Top Gun, Aliens, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and more. Competition may have killed its earnings upon release, but these days, Big Trouble in Little China is a widely beloved cult classic. When Jim Henson and George Lucas worked together, they produced plenty of wonderful content, but fans didn't always appreciate their work at the time. Labyrinth is one such film, and it's truly surprising it didn't do well. The film follows Sarah, played by a young Jennifer Connelly, as she fights to rescue her baby brother from the Goblin King, played by David Bowie, who holds him in his castle at the center of an otherworldly labyrinth. Bowie provided much of the film's music and dominated every scene he was in. Henson's work shines through the many adorable and frightening puppets appearing in nearly every scene. It's a true gothic fairy tale adventure film, and it's magical. But sadly, it bombed. Labyrinth cost $25 million to make, and audiences avoided it, preferring to see Top Gun or any of the other better-performing films released in June 1986. Despite tons of star power behind it, the film only took $14.5 million at the global box office. Labyrinth became a hit by the home video market, though, and these days, fans adore it as a cult classic decades after its release. Labyrinth has expanded into a franchise consisting of comics, board games, books, and more. The 1980s were a good decade for fantasy films, and you can't have a proper movie in the genre without a dragon. Enter Dragonslayer, a dark fantasy about a young wizard named Galen Bradwarden who embarks on a quest to slay the dragon Vermithrax, a 400-year-old beast only sated by virgin sacrifice. Much of the story details Galen's adventure, which climaxes as he fulfills the title and becomes a hero. Dragonslayer features numerous creature effects shots and holds the distinction of being the first non-Lucasfilm project to utilize industrial light and magic for its visual effects work. The film was relatively expensive to produce. It cost Paramount Pictures $18 million to bring Dragonslayer to life on the silver screen. The movie's box office earnings of between $6 million and $14 million ensured Dragonslayer's failure. Still, despite being a financial flop in theaters, Dragonslayer earned Academy Award nominations for Best Music and Best Effects, and fans of dragon movies have long considered it among the best of the genre. While more recent fantasy films are maybe more refined, Dragonslayer is an excellent entry from the 1980s, and for a long time it was arguably the best dragon movie to hit theaters for decades. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen is one of Terry Gilliam's most ambitious films. It involved 3 countries co-producing the epic tale about an 18th century nobleman's exploits fighting against the Ottoman Empire. Most of the Monty Python crew worked alongside Robin Williams and many more stars to bring the film to life, and it's as magnificent as the title suggests. Columbia Pictures paid $46.6 million to produce the film. That's a sizable investment, and it was nearly double the film's initial $23.5 million budget. Stories of a nightmare shoot and issues with the studio likely contributed to minuscule ticket sales, and the film ended up earning just $8 million at the box office, making it a true financial disaster.
I remember the effects. I never got any feeling for the people involved.
The failure of The Adventures of Baron Munchausen doesn't make much sense in hindsight. It received mostly positive reviews and nominations for 4 Academy Awards. The people who watched it loved the movie, and it's not so much a cult classic today as it's a beloved conclusion to Gilliam's trilogy of imagination, featuring Robin Williams as a hilariously over-the-top King of the Moon. In 1981, John Travolta starred in Brian De Palma's Blowout, a neo-noir thriller that had a lot going for it. The film follows Jack Terry, a movie sound effects tech who inadvertently records evidence of the assassination of a presidential hopeful disguised as an automobile accident. This thrusts him into an adventure rife with danger and political intrigue. Although that sounds like the perfect recipe for a successful thriller, 1981 audiences avoided Blowout. The film cost the studio around $18 million to produce, but with little interest driving audiences to the theaters, it only made $13.7 million. The likely reason for its downfall was poor word of mouth from the scant few who bothered to see it. The film has a dark ending, and filmmakers always take a gamble when they conclude a movie on a down note. Still, it remains one of De Palma's best early films. Heathers is about Veronica Sawyer and a clique of popular girls in high school, all three of whom are named Heather. Veronica is something of an outsider, and she falls for a bad boy, JD. The film plays out much like Mean Girls, but with much more murder and multiple faked suicides capped off with a bomb exploding at a high school. It's a dark comedy to be sure. Despite the tongue-in-cheek critique of its many controversial issues, or possibly because of it, Heathers wasn't a hit on release. Roger Ebert gave the film 2.5 stars, touting its message while pointing out the difficulties some may have in understanding its point of view. He wrote, "Is this a black comedy about murder or just a cynical morality play?"
I can't believe it. I just killed my best friend.
And your worst enemy.
Same difference.
Heathers only cost around $3 million to make. Despite this, it lost money, pulling in only $1.1 million in ticket sales. Still, Heathers has stood the test of time, and despite its controversial depiction of high school murder, it remains popular to this day. It has since spawned a musical and a television reboot that premiered in 2018. Although Martin Scorsese's directorial efforts are universally praised, his box office receipts haven't always been nearly as consistent. The King of Comedy follows an aspiring stand-up comedian played by Robert De Niro who becomes obsessed with a veteran comic played by Jerry Lewis. He believes they are true friends, but in reality he's little more than a stalker. Things come to a head when he kidnaps his idol to land a spot opening for a show, and it all ends with massive success for a short time. The film, though, didn't have as much success for any amount of time. Despite all the star power and critical accolades, The King of Comedy was in and out of theaters without earning anywhere near its $19 million budget. The movie brought in just over $2.5 million at the worldwide box office, solidifying it as a box office bomb. Time has only helped the film gain an audience, though, with reviewers promoting it decades later. Mark Kermode of The Guardian called it Scorsese's greatest film. Legendary Japanese director Akira Kurosawa named The King of Comedy one of his favorite films, and the 2019 box office smash hit Joker drew on The King of Comedy as a primary influence. Blade Runner is considered one of the greatest science fiction films of all time, so it may be a surprise to some to learn that it was a box office failure, but it's true. The 1982 film follows Rick Deckard as he hunts down and retires a group of renegade Nexus 6 replicants on Earth. His investigations take him throughout Los Angeles, where he uncovers more than he planned in his hunt for the leader of the replicants, Roy Batty. Blade Runner was an ambitious project requiring numerous visual effects shots. All the effects in the film were created without the benefit of CGI, and they still hold up today. Matte paintings, models, and more came together to bring the world of 2019 Los Angeles to life, and in the end, the studio paid $28 million to produce Blade Runner. But on its initial release, Blade Runner only brought in $27.5 million, failing to even make the break-even point. Since then, the film has been re-released numerous times, eventually pushing its total into the black, and it spawned a critically acclaimed sequel in 2017. Safe to say that despite its disappointing returns at the box office, Blade Runner hasn't yet disappeared like tears in rain.
All those moments will be lost in time.
The Right Stuff details the U.S. military test pilots who developed and operated various vehicles in the burgeoning space program, and continues to show the development of NASA and the first wave of astronauts, known as the Mercury 7. The film is an epic, running for nearly 200 minutes as it explores the dawn of the space race, ending with the conclusion of the Mercury program. The Right Stuff cost $27 million to produce, but its ticket sales only amounted to $21.5 million, with its extremely long runtime likely scaring away many viewers. Roger Ebert gave the film 4 stars, naming it the best movie of the year. While it didn't make much money, The Right Stuff nabbed 8 Academy Award nominations, winning 4 in technical categories, including Best Music, Sound Effects, and Editing. It's one of those films almost everyone agrees is fantastic, despite its failure upon release. It's rare that a Disney movie doesn't do well, but it's not unheard of. Case in point, The Black Cauldron. In 1985, after 48 years of producing one hit after another, Walt Disney Animation Studios dropped a serious bomb. The film follows a young hero and his friends as they seek to stop the Horned King from obtaining the titular Black Cauldron so he can take over the world. It's a dark fantasy that legitimately frightened children when it was released in theaters. That's not something Disney likes to do, so the studio slapped it with its first PG rating. Despite removing several scenes, the final cut is still terrifying thanks to an army of skeletal zombie warriors. The Black Cauldron was the most expensive animated film ever made at the time at $44 million, but it only made $21.2 million at the global box office, significantly damaging the animation studio's stability. Fortunately, Disney Animation survived the Black Cauldron, but the film almost didn't. It took 13 years for Disney to open the vault and release the Black Cauldron on VHS. Perhaps because of the prior unavailability, the film didn't take long to build a fan base, and the Black Cauldron has become one of Disney Animation's few cult classics.